thank you for making remarks. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, can you hear me? Mr. Martin, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Good evening. I would like to call to order the Monday, June 5th meeting of the Wilson School Board. Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Mrs. Casper?
Here.
Dr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Martin? Mr. McCray?
Here.
Mr. Negrini?
Here.
Mr. Schneider?
Here.
Mrs. Cocker?
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Please stand for the pledge to the flag. Usually at this part of our meeting, we have communications. While we don't officially have any communication items tonight, I was wondering if we could share a video that was shared at graduation. It was created by student Ava Schnorr, and it's a collection of the year of memories for our graduating seniors.
Once again, I'm Mason,
And I'm Elias.
and this has been the 2023 School Year Recap.
recording? Okay, let's do one more. And action.
One more time. One more time. One more time, we're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah, alright. Don't stop the dancing. One more time, we're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah, don't stop the dancing. One more time. You know I'm just feeling celebration tonight. Celebrate. Don't wait too late. No. Celebrate and dance so free. Music's got me feeling so free. Celebrate and dance so free. One more time. Music's got me feeling so free. We're gonna celebrate. Celebrate and dance so free. One more time. Music's got me feeling so free. We're gonna celebrate. Celebrate and dance so free. One more time. Music's got me feeling so free. We're gonna celebrate. Celebrate and dance so free. One more time. Music's got me feeling so free. We're gonna celebrate. Celebrate and dance so free. One more time. Music's got me feeling so free. We're gonna celebrate. Celebrate and dance so free. One more time. Music's got me feeling so free. We're gonna celebrate. Celebrate and dance so free. One more time. Music's got me feeling so free. We're gonna celebrate. Celebrate and dance so free. One more time.
I would describe the school district as a very welcoming community. I was just here 10 months ago, but looking back from now, I've done so much.
We here at Wilson, we are family, we are mentors, we are peers, and we are brothers and sisters. And anyone new that comes to Wilson will find that they can have a home here as well.
It's like one big happy family. You fight, you love each other, you go through good memories. When you come in and experience that the right way and get to know people, get to know your classmates and your teachers.
There are many classes here that I could take that would allow me to explore things I was interested in and pursue in depth what I'm passionate about, and faculty who would support me every step of the way.
And I think that's great about Wilson is that you're not stuck to one thing. If you want to change what you're doing, go ahead.
It was so fulfilling seeing all the years of work come together, which I think is just a theme throughout all of the Wilson activities I participated in.
We definitely have a different type of aura around the teachings, the curriculums, the students here.
It being our senior year, there has been a ton of lasts, and we've all kind of come together as a senior class and really had fun and made some great memories.
I'm going to miss also, the wonderful teachers, administrators, everyone who makes the time here at Wilson so worthwhile.
All the other students that I've seen the past 13, however many years, not seeing them every day anymore, it's going to be a lot different.
What I'm going to miss most about Wilson is the people.
The people.
A lot of it is the people.
Are the people here.
One word that I would use to describe my time here at Wilson would be hopeful.
Extraordinary.
Funny.
Formative.
Enriching.
Busy.
Memorable.
Malleable.
Real, because everything we've done here is getting us ready for the real world.
In this community, there's always a chance for you. There's always a place for you.
Congrats to the class of 2023.
Once again, I'm
Thank you for sharing that video. We had a chance to have a little glimpse of it at graduation and wanted to make sure that the whole community had an opportunity to see the full work. Any comments from Dr. Kennedy?
When I watched it on social media the first time, seeing the wide range of extracurricular and co-curricular, I mean, there, other than the most valuable bulldog, there were no one was sitting in math class and they were showing pictures of that. It was all extra and co-curricular. And it's been said before that the arts are needs, not wants, or wants, not needs. And that shows you we need the arts. We need our extra and co-curriculars. Our students need them to be a part of the community. And as someone who went to graduation virtually online and then went to in person the fireworks, everyone was out on their lawn chair. I think the lawn chairs just stayed out from the parade. And the baseball field, the freshman baseball field is full of people. So this isn't just touching our students, it's touching our whole community. Little kids sitting behind me that were like, am I gonna do this one day? It was amazing. So, and if I can just tell a tiny graduation story, I told this to Dr. Cachufio when I saw him the other day at the high school. At the end of the semester, we were talking with the kids, just trying to get them through, and I'm like, oh, Cooper's going to the prom, tell me about your prom. I was surprised. A lot of kids don't go with a date. No one goes with a date. I made him take a date. They go in hordes of children. And I thought that was so interesting. So I said to the kids, I was like, did you go to the prom? Did you take a date? And they were like, we didn't have a prom because they're juniors in college. They were the COVID year, so they didn't have a prom. And then immediately they started spewing stories about how awful their graduation was and how they felt robbed. And I was like, oh my goodness. Except I have a girl who went to Wilson, and she said her graduation was one of the best days of her life in the middle of COVID. One of the most memorable, best days. And that made my heart explode 3,000 times. And we should be so proud that we did that year, and then we kept the traditions up. I mean, our traditions are amazing. That I watched the kids walk out of Whitfield from their graduation walk. Do you just pass out tissues and I mean, it has to be an extra tissue donation that day. It's so incredible what we do in this district and how we share it with our community.
Thank you, and that's a good point. I think at least our schedule was extremely busy this last month, and it was all about celebrations, and I think this was a really good example of celebrating all the things that they've had an opportunity to do and kind of their culminating time together. And yeah, I agree. And to speak to the graduation walk, in case people aren't aware, the graduating seniors were put on buses and sent first to their middle schools that they attended, and they walked through the halls in their caps and gowns, and then dispersed to their elementary schools. And I know I heard from my elementary children at home that it was really neat. It was great to see all of the seniors in their gowns and seeing their former teachers, and it was just a really positive experience for the current students to see, one day they will be doing the same thing. So it was a motivating activity, definitely. So thank you for sharing that video. And thank you for everyone that put all of the hard work into making our graduation ceremony a huge success. Mr. Maravich, solicitor announcement?
Sure. There's an item 6.6, which is actually an agreement with Wilson and Wyomissing for Wyomissing to send 3 students to Wilson for the extended school year program. When the agenda was published, it was somewhat unclear based on the language. They're actually paying us $5,500 per student for a total per student as opposed to $5,500. So just complying with the most recent Sunshine Law changes, I've just asked for a motion to approve the language change on 6.6 to reflect what is currently on the agenda. So I need a motion, a second, and then a roll call.
And would you like that now or when we get to 6.6?
Now.
Okay, great. Can Can we have a motion to change the language to 5,500 per student, correct?
Yes.
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Mr. Hart, second. Roll call, please. I'm sorry, any discussion about that change? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin? Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. We have no public participation on agenda items this evening. The board did meet in executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss contract and personnel. Looking for approval of the minutes from May 15th, 2023. Mr. Martin, thank you. Do we have a second?
Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, I'm sorry, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Payment of bills, Mr. Negrini.
Thank you. A motion to approve the payment of bills from the general fund in the amount of $3,282,342.33 as attached.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
McCray.
Mr. McCray, thank you. Any discussion on 3.1? Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin? Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Abstain.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 abstain.
Mrs. Burkholder.
Yes?
I didn't,
Oh, sorry, that was 8 yes, 1 abstain.
okay.
Sorry.
All right, thank you. Superintendent's report, Dr. Trickett.
Thank you. Tonight I present the superintendent's report, inclusive of the personnel and program recommendations. I'd like to highlight 2 different items within this report. First, 4.1, you'll see an additional retirement of Dr. Tony Venino, reading specialist at Cornwall Terrace Elementary School. We had a great time celebrating her retirement last week along with the rest of our retirees. She's retiring after having 26 years of service to the Wilson School District and our students, working primarily as a reading specialist supporting our students who need support in reading the most. So congratulations to her and best wishes in your retirement. And then number 2, under professional hires, Ms. Black is back here. If you could just give us a wave. She's going to be joining our team effective at the start of the school year at elementary education and special education certificate from Kutztown University. Most recently has been doing her student teaching experience here at Whitfield. So we're excited to get you on board, and thank you so much for coming here tonight to be officially welcomed by our board and our community. You bet.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. Do we have a motion for superintendent's reports, items 4.1 through 4.9 as presented?
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second?
Casper.
Mrs. Casper, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin? Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Human Resources, 5.1, request approval to authorize the appointment of Rachel Kemmerer to BCBA, an Act 93 position. 5.2, request to authorize the superintendent to make employment commitments to qualified applicants for the purpose of filling vacancies that occur after the June 5th, 2023 board meeting, with action to be ratified by the school board at the next official meeting. Looking for motions to approve Human Resources items 5.1 and 5.2. Mr. Hart, thank you. Do we have a second?
Casper.
Mrs. Casper, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin? Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Student Services, 6.1, request permission to contract with the Vista School for one special education student for the 2023-24 school year, services at a cost of $64,678.59, pending solicitor review and approval. 6.2, request approval of a tuition agreement with New Story Extended School Year programming for 6 special education students, 3 students at a discounted rate of $415, 2 students at a discounted rate of $395, and 1 student at a discounted rate of $355 per student per day for the 2023 ESY term, beginning June 20th, 2023, and ending July 28th, 2023, pending solicitor review and approval. 6.3, request permission to approve the adoption of a settlement agreement and release to establish an education fund to be held and managed by the district in the amount of $38,000 for legitimate educational expenses, inclusive of $19,000 for attorney fees, to settle and comprise all claims raised by the parents of a middle school student. 6.4, request approval of doctors, dentists, and game coverage for the 2023-24 school year as attached. 6.5, request permission to approve the Berks County Intermediate Unit Agreement for the 2023-24 school year to provide and operate the programs and services enumerated in the special education, student services, and early intervention kindergarten eligible programs and services. And 6.6 was our amended language, request a contract with the Wyomissing School District for the 3 special education students to attend the Wilson School District ESY extended school year program at a total of $5,500 per student, beginning June 26th, 2023, and ending July 27th, 2023. Looking for a motion to approve student service items 6.1 through 6.6 as presented. Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Do we have a second?
Casper.
Mrs. Casper, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Martin? Mr. Martin? Thank you. Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
7.1, under Technology and Media, request approval for the district to continue to participate in the Educational Technology Pool Council Consortium to share counseling services provided by the law firm of Sweet Stevens, Katz & Williams, LLP, regarding technology-related legal issues in education at a cost of $550 for the 2023-24 school year. Looking for a motion to approve item 7.1.
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second?
McCray.
Mr. McCray, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin? Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Operations, 8.1, request permission to contract with All American Athletics for recoding of 8 building gym floors as attached. High school upper house, $6,900, lower house, $2,300, Southern Middle School, $3,100, Cornwall Terrace, $2,200, West Middle School, $4,100, Shiloh Hills, $4,750, and Green Valley and Whitfield, both at $2,100. Looking for, also 8.2, request permission to purchase district copy paper and supplies through the BCIU bid for July 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023 as attached. Looking for a motion to approve operation items 8.1 and 8.2 as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Case, thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. Martin, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin? Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Finance, 9.1, request permission to establish a student activity account for the Moment of Magic Club in the High School Student Activities Fund. Looking for a motion for 9.1.
Negrini, so moved.
Mr. Negrini, thank you. Dr. Kennedy is a second. Any discussion?
I think this is a really worthwhile clubs have. I'm having, had children overnight for several nights in the hospital. Having that cart come around and bring the toys is like, if you asked Blakely when she was in the hospital, when she was 4 for a week, did she like the hospital? Yes, she did. They bought her toys. Like, she did not hate it. So, especially for children who are genuinely ill, that could be the one highlight they have in the day after getting poked and prodded. So I think that's awesome.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Any other discussion from the board?
President Cocker.
Yes, Dr.
Just a note here, the clubs like this that come before the board typically are generated because students want to start them. So I think it's important to note that I would say probably the majority of times, it's students who come before a teacher looking to start up some type of a way to get involved and engaged in the school. And then the student simply finds an advisor to work with a set of students to put forth their energy towards something like this. So I just wanted to make the comment that this is definitely a reflection of a student who probably had the experience and wanted to give back. So just wanted to recognize the great students behind this club as well.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. Having a motion and a second, roll call, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin? Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Curriculum and Staff Development, 10.1, request approval of the affiliation agreement with Reading Hospital for a non-clinical honors internship program for high school seniors, as attached. 10.2, request approval of the 2023-24 Reading Area Community College Wilson School District dual enrollment agreement, as attached, pending solicitor review and approval. And 10.3, request approval of the student teaching affiliation agreement between Kutztown University and Wilson School District, pending solicitor review and approval. Looking for a motion to approve curriculum and staff development items 10.1 through 10.3. Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Do we have a second? Mrs. Casper, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin? Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Transportation, 11.1, request approval of the 2022-23 extended school year routes as attached. 11.2, request approval of the 2022-23 extended school year transportation employees as attached. Looking for a motion to approve transportation items 11.1 and 11.2.
So moved. Case?
Mr. Case, thank you. Do we have a second?
Negrini, second.
Mr. Negrini, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin? Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Child Care, 12.1, request approval of the 2023-24 Parent Handbook, Wilson Child Care and Early Learning as attached. Looking for a motion for 12.1. Mr. Martin, thank you. Do we have a second?
Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin? Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Extracurricular, 13.1, request approval of the high school water polo team traveling to Erie, PA for tournament on September 15th through the 16th in 2023. The cost to the district is 2 substitute teachers for 1 day. The students will be chaperoned by Tom Hauk and Chris Lechlichner. It will be 1 day out of school for students. Looking for a motion for 13.1.
So moved. Case?
Mr. Case, thank you. Do we have a second?
Casper.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to committee reports. For the BCTC and Student Services, Mrs. Casper.
Thank you, President Cocker. Today I have a report only for BCTC. We met at the East Campus on May 24th One of the major highlights was the approval of the BCTC budget for the 23-24 school year, in which there was a 7.55% decrease compared to this year's. And then the main contributing factor was the decrease in transportation costs since the transfer of student transportation responsibility to all of the sending districts, which I have been pointing out throughout this year in some of my past reports. Overall, the sending district's contribution is expected to decrease for BCTC by about 6%, and Wilson's proportionate share among the 16 sending districts is just a little over the average at 7.9% for the 23-24 budget year. I know earlier this year we highlighted some of our high school's career and STEM programs in an effort to promote the kinds of career preparations that students gain right here at our campus, while still encouraging the enrollment in the wide array of programs that BCTC still has to offer our students. I do believe that this is paying off, and we see a more strategic effort at helping students and their families make decisions about the pathways for the students and access to all of our academic and career-ready pathways that are available both here and at BCTC. We also got an update on the student-built house in which Wilson's own Matt Wolf has taken on as the realtor for BCTC in Ole. Matt was able to get us several offers above our asking price within the $500,000 range. So it's pretty impressive, and it shows the level of craftsmanship that our BCTC programs are capable of offering for our students. Some important dates I wanted to announce that are coming up this summer for BCTC. June 12th through the 16th is the BCTC Career Camp. June 19th through the 23rd is the Skills USA National Leadership Conference in Atlanta, Georgia. June 21st through the 24th is Penn HOSA National Leadership Conference in Dallas, Texas. And then July 3rd through the 6th is the FCCLA National Leadership Conference in Denver, Colorado. And then finally, our students from Wilson receiving honors at BCTC at the end of this school year. Senior Caleb Gustafson for Culinary Arts, 11th grader Jenna Lee Belfort for Cosmetology, and sophomores Thierno Diallo for Protective Services and Homeland Security, Kezia Salome Vasquez for Advertising Art and Design Technology, Ava Rhodes for Auto Collision Repair Technology, and Maya Doan for Health Occupations. So that's my report for BCTC, and our next meeting is June 28th.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. BCIU and Curriculum Committee, Dr. Kennedy.
Yes, thank you. The BCIU was a relatively short meeting. They're really gearing up for a lot of the beginning of the school year bidding, to go out and bid all the things that they do in conjunction with all the local school districts. I wanted to point out that the BCIU has been very busy meeting with local legislators. In April, they met with a lot of our local legislatures. They hosted a meeting called Collaborative Conversations on Education, bringing together state legislators and superintendents, career and technology directors, and business administration officers, administrators from Berks County School Districts. Just to start the conversation, I'm sure there was a lot of discussion about many of those unfunded mandates. The other big thing that the BCIU has been working on is they had a retirement, big retirement, and they've really worked at restructuring their entire administrative umbrella. Lastly, I wanted to mention that our own Mrs. Troutman, with the BCIU's Mrs. Amelia Crotty, they hosted a breakout session called Harnessing the Power of Your District School Board to Share Your District Story at the 2023 Annual Pennsylvania School Public Relations Association. So thank you for representing us there. Now I get to share good news on you. All right, as far as the curriculum committee, we met on the 24th. We reviewed a proposal to develop a grade 6 and grade 7 library course, which will be part of their quints, which I think will now be sextuplets.
Not using that
I was just thinking, that is not, not in middle school. There's going to be a focus of reading, writing, speaking, and listening standards. The grade 6 course is going to be Gateway to Information and Communication, and the grade 7 course is going to be called Sustainable Problem Solving and Communication. We looked at the affiliation agreements that we just approved between RAC, dual enrollment, and KU student teachers. We had an elementary science curriculum update. We're trying to align what we have with the new PA science standards for grades K to 5. Everybody got a phone call that has an elementary school student this morning that the progress reports are on Skyward now, and the kindergarten students have their skills checklist. They are going to, the report cards are going to remain the same for next year. We are working really, our faculty is working really hard at developing virtual courses that will match our courses here on campus. There are 13 courses that will launch in the 23-24 school year, with more to come. They're going to use the platform Schoolology, and they are going to be taught by in-house educators instead of a third-party platform, and I think that's going to be really great. The last thing is that the high school had a STEM showcase that took place on May 25th, 2023, and our students created high-level projects that were displayed for all to see. They included student-built go-karts, electronic skateboards, electronic guitars, and student-developed miniature golf courses. Just a few examples of the projects. And that's all for curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Berks EIT, Mrs. Schlossman. Thank you. Extracurricular, we have not had an extracurricular committee meeting since our last meeting. However, our regularly scheduled meeting, which is supposed to take place next Monday, has been rescheduled to the following Monday, June 19th at noon, due to schedule conflicts. Facilities, Mr. Case.
Thank you, President Cocker. First and foremost, I just want to take a moment, as everyone has already, to thank the facilities team of Wilson, and also our school resource officers, support staff, teachers, administrators, police and fire departments, sponsors, parents, Education Foundation, everyone involved in making such a fantastic last week or two in graduation, the fireworks and everything for Wilson. There's a lot of work behind the scenes, and Wilson just continues to nail it year after year. So thank you on behalf of the entire board and everybody else. Thank you. The next meeting for the facilities team or facilities committee is June 12th at 4:30 p.m. A couple things that are going to be basically talked about is an update for phase 1 of the design phase for the Performing Arts Center. Just a quick note, if anyone, Mr. Simcox was talking about it as we were walking downstairs today. The turf field for Mack Stadium is already off, so we're making quick work and already getting started on all the summer projects that are along the way. So watch out for all the great construction and everything else that's going on this summer. So thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Finance, Mr. Negrini.
Thank you, President Cucker. We met earlier today. Representatives from Herbine and Company were present. They outlined areas of interest for the fiscal year 22-23 audit planning process. Additional planning is set to take place the week of July 24th. Field work to be conducted the week of September 18th. So more to come in the audit planning process. We discussed the 23-24 Food Services Fund proposed budget. The presentation included proposed meal price increases of 5 cents for both breakfast and lunch, although it's anticipated that there will be universal free breakfast for next year. The increase is based upon the increased costs in food and labor expenses. The food service fund balance is healthy, has approximately 7 months of covered expenses. We have seen a decrease in the average lunch meals of approximately 438 less per day than last year. The district has a population of approximately 38% of its students that qualify for free and reduced lunches, and negative lunch balances continues to be an issue. There's approximately $28,000 in negative balances for this particular school year, 11,000 of which have already been sent out to collections. Again, reminding parents, if they are in need of assistance, to have those conversations with administration. The child care fund also has a healthy balance covering approximately 9 months of expenses. A factor of that healthy balance is the lack of staffing that was budgeted for this year. We just simply can't find enough qualified staff. There is certainly needs and parents wanting to utilize the before and after care child services. We just can't staff them at this time. And then finally, we discussed the final budget, which we'll be voting upon at our next meeting. The proposed millage increase remains at 2.9%. The only change is in the expenses and revenues. There is an increase in expenses of approximately $300,000. That change is to reflect a proposed support staff compensation, pay rate adjustments, and to put back into place a program coordinator cut. There's also an increase in revenues of $300,000. That is based upon local and state revenues and an increase of IDEA revenues, healthier outlook with the business privilege tax, and the state offset for PSERS and FICA taxes. So it's a net zero with those increases on both the revenue and expense side. And the outlook for the 22-23 end-of-year financials is showing that the district will have a $4.4 million surplus. So at some point we'll be having discussions as where the surplus should be placed within capital reserve, if we're going to look to put those into committed fund balances like PSERS in the past, and our enrollment expansion projects. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. Legislative, Mr. Schneider.
To Mr. Negrini's previous point about the school breakfasts probably remaining free, there's also been a renewed push to bring lunches back in line for the very reasons that Mr. Negrini highlighted, the growing numbers of students that are on free and reduced lunch. So there's a greater push for that. Other than that, we're still waiting on a budget from the state, as always, and I will be happy to update when we finally get that from them.
Thank you. Human Resources, Mr. Hart.
I have no report.
Public Relations, Mrs. Troutman.
Good evening, everyone. So there's been lots of great celebrations of our students over the past few weeks since the last board meeting, but I did want to highlight one in particular. So each year, high schools in Berks County are invited to nominate seniors in 11 categories to honor their most promising students in the Reading Eagles Berks Best program. So we are thrilled to announce that we had 2 Wilson seniors who received the top honors in the program this year. The first was Trevor Bilodeau, who was named the Berks Best winner for career and technical education. And Danny Radosh, our former board rep, was named Berk's Best Tyler Seitzinger Award for Community Service and Leadership. That's a huge, huge honor, and we're super proud of her, as always. In addition, Wilson seniors who were selected as finalists in this program included Amish Jindal for Communications, Isabella Vitalis for Performing Arts, and Julia Edelman for Visual Arts. So congratulations to these amazing students for being recognized among the best in Berks this year. As many people have already said, I too want to publicly thank the entire Wilson community for their support this past school year. The culmination of the year ended with events and activities across our district designed to celebrate the accomplishments of our students and our staff. We had moving up ceremonies, concerts, academic, athletic awards ceremonies, plays, musicals, countless athletic events, many sleepless nights, but it was all worth it. And at all of these, the community came out in full force. So that just goes to show you what an amazing community you have. I think every one of these events was a packed house, which was awesome. And of course, we just had our wonderful celebration for the class of 2023, and we can't express how amazing it has been. So first, the week kicked off with our student-led Decision Day Assembly. We had not had a Decision Day since 2019, nor had we brought the entire student body, high school student body together in the same room since 2019. And our senior class officers came to us probably, I would say right around December and said, we really want to do this. We want to bring the entire student body together. We want to do a decision day, and we want to help plan it. And they did. And they did it beautifully. It was awesome. And the students were amazing. We had over 2,000 students at that assembly. They were kind, they were respectful, they were cheering on their fellow classmates, and seriously, we were bursting with pride. It was amazing. So hopefully that we will continue to do decision days, and it'll be a legacy that those class officers started for us. Then we had these parents, like, I can't even tell you how many, maybe 60, 70 of them, who put together our cap and gown event, and it was epic. We had over 300 kids come to this event. They were so excited, huge smiles on their faces. Every single one of them left with a prize, every single one of them. Not one kid left without something in their hands that was donated by this community. Crazy, amazing, so much fun. And then we had the, of course, amazing celebration of our seniors at our graduation. Again, we had the parade, the ceremony in the stadium, and then the fireworks display. Again, all those things are donated. We already talked about that, Mr. Case, but all of those things, we have community donations, people that donate money so that we can do that for our seniors, which is awesome. So I got to experience this again this year, not only as your PR director for the district, but also as a parent. And I can tell you, when you guys have all of you that have seniors, when you get to ride in that parade, and you get to see the community and how they love our kids, you will know there is no place in the world you want to raise your kids than the Wilson School District. No place in the world. It's the best. So we just want to thank you all so much for how much you love our kids. And then finally, we still have things to celebrate, so make sure you keep up with us on social media throughout the summer months, and check out our website because there will be plenty of other things that we'll want to be sharing with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Troutman. Education Foundation, Mr. Case.
Yes, I'm going to, I was going to talk about 2 venture grants that we had at our meeting 2 weeks ago, but I'm going to wait till the next board meeting only because as I'm going through this, I can't do the service to it if I don't have pictures. So I'm going to do a little bit more homework before I present because two great venture grants that came through from the Education Foundation that I would like to talk further about. So more to come in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Technology Committee, Mr. McCray.
No report. Our next meeting is June 19th.
Thank you. And Mr. Maravich, we don't have any public participation on agenda items. Do you have any solicitor report? Okay. All right, then I will open the floor to board discussion. Mr. Schneider?
Yeah, I don't know if everybody out there knows just how many different groups go into putting together events like graduation to make them come off so flawlessly. So I would just like to thank, and I apologize if I miss anybody, but the district admin, the building admins, transportation, moving those kiddos to their past schools, operations for getting everything set up and torn down, and the local police department for making sure that it all goes off without a hitch, and again, the secretaries administrative assistants who help organize all of this stuff. just a huge thank you on behalf of myself and the community, because all of this stuff the last several weeks has just been amazing, and it's every year.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Other conversation? Mrs. Casper?
Yeah, I just want to echo all of that. Thank you to everybody who put together this last few weeks of the school year. It has just been amazing. It's been a whirlwind. May is like that other most wonderful time of the year. It really feels like a busy, busy time, like Christmas time. So it was really a whirlwind. I do want to acknowledge a very specific event that happened for the first time this year. I don't know if you can put this slide up for me. I'd like to acknowledge this year's first fifth grade theater production of Annie at Green Valley Elementary that was performed on May 16th. I want to congratulate, first of all the more than 40 fifth graders at Green Valley who committed many hours of rehearsal and worked together in every area of theater production to put on a remarkable show, from the singing to the props and the sound and the lighting. The show was so entertaining, and it showcased the up-and-coming talent that our elementary students, who are now rising sixth graders, will have once they get into the secondary buildings. I especially wanted to commend Mrs. Petersheim and Mrs. Richards for their motivation and perseverance in supporting the students to put together this show. And some of the Green Valley community as well, who donated some of the materials for the props, and definitely volunteered some of their hours to helping organize the performance itself. And of course, Mr. Stenger for his support, as we hope that this is just the start of a new fifth grade tradition. And we look forward to more of the arts at our elementary level. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Other information from the board? Okay, so in reflection on all of the positive things that happened over the last couple weeks, we also had an election between the past meeting and this, and I just kind of wanted to share something that I kind of had as a reflection. So I worked at the polling locations, a couple of them, to hand out, materials and just say, please vote, thank you for voting. Here are some people that you might want to keep in mind when you vote. And this isn't something that's new to me. My family, a couple members of my family and extended family have been involved in local political roles probably since I was like 10 years old. So I've done this a number of times in different locations. Sinking Spring I was really involved in when I was in high school. I was on their rec board, so we had a local person involved with rec board that was running, so I stood out the polls for him. And it's usually very amicable. People are just coming to vote. You just say, here, take this. And even if they don't want it, they're usually pretty kind about it and just say thanks. Ooh, and let's move that way, and take your paper and just put it in their pocket. But I kind of had a revelation when we were discussing this tonight about the connection to our community and our school district. And I think that in general, and when we look at our community and our students, I know that's one of Dr. Trickett's goals, is to have each student involved in something in our district, co-curricular, extracurricular, some sort of extra activity, right? Because that gives them a connection to our district. And so I experienced something at the polls that I had never really experienced before, and that was some pretty negative feedback. And I'm thinking now it's mostly the two incidents that occurred. They weren't connected to our district. So they're voting, the whole community votes, go and vote, it's election day. But the feedback that we received was negative, directed towards the school board race. And I just kind of wanted to share, I wrote down, now it seems kind of removed now, we're talking about celebrations at the end of the year, and I don't want to sidetrack that, but I think it's important to share that there are some really negative feelings about school board members in general. It wasn't directed about a specific person. So I wrote down exactly what was shared, and there was a person that was actually running for school board that was there with me who experienced the same situation. So I just kind of wanted to give everyone a preface that this is relatively violent language, but I think it's important that I share exactly what was said to us and kind of in a similar tone, just so we understand what kind of energy is also out there, as opposed to like the positive in this room, we want to celebrate. But we also need to be considerate of the fact that not everybody watches our meetings, not everybody is involved in our school district, and our whole community means our whole community. So just as a warning, if people are watching the meeting, this is relatively violent language, but this is verbatim of what was shared. So an older gentleman was walking into the polling location, and the person across from me said, "Would you like any information on the school board candidates?" And very nice, just, same thing like I said, you just hand the paper, if they say no, fine. This individual screamed back at us, to her, but also to us, "All of the school board members should be taken out and shot." Screamed, like the anger in his voice. It was extremely upsetting, and it was also, I was taken aback, because like I said, I've been doing this for years. Family members and friends who have run for elected office, I gladly go and spend a day and hand out information for them. I've never heard that kind of anger. And the person who was speaking to this gentleman handled it very well. She said, "Well, we don't want hate, like that's not what, this is not acceptable. Why do you feel that way?" To which he said something to the effect of all the YouTube videos and they're terrible, and then just grumbled himself into the election location. But then, so that was alarming, and like I said, I'd never experienced that before. And then later in the afternoon, I was at a different location and had a conversation with a young man who was also handing out information. I think he was like an official person hanging out information. He wasn't running for anything, but he was in an official capacity sharing information and candidates' names. And we started talking about public education, and he shared what his education background was, and we had some things in common. And then he shared that he doesn't see himself ever sending his own children, he's young, so he does not have children, but in the future, to public education. And I said, "Oh, why not?" We're having a good back and forth. And he said, because he doesn't like that half of all of the school funding is spent on re-educating teachers. To which I asked, perplexed, "Do you mean their annual professional development and training?" Because obviously, trust me, half of our budget is not spent on annual training, so that would have been an easy response. And he said, "No," and again, I'm going to give you a warning because this is verbatim what he said, but I think it's important that we understand as a community what kind of information or lack of information is out there. To which he said, "No, I mean when a teacher assaults a student," he said, "when a teacher rapes a student and isn't fired, but instead is sent away for a couple years to a re-education camp, and then they come back and teach." Now, I literally could not make that up. So I had to think about how I would handle that response, and I said, "Well, I'm not sure where that information is coming from, where you've learned this information, but if a student is assaulted in any way by a teacher, which is obviously very rare to begin with, that teacher is arrested, charges are pressed against them, they are fired, and their teaching degree, their certificate is revoked. There's no re-education camp that we send teachers away to and then they come back and continue to teach." And he's was firm about it, that no, that's half of the education budget goes to that. And I said, "I would encourage you to look back where you found this information and re-educate yourself, because this isn't anywhere close to reality." So I think those two pieces, obviously aside from what our community that's involved in the school district understands about how our school district runs and how much of a positive environment and district we have here, those two situations, the anger that exists out there towards school boards and school districts and teachers, I'm just gonna leave it over there, I'm sorry. The anger that exists out there, as well as coupled with the misinformation and misunderstandings, I think that we all need to be aware that that exists, and I think we need to bring it to light and have conversations about it, and not just dismiss it as one angry voter or one misinformed young man, because they didn't come up with this on their own, right? It is out there, and I think that if you're angry about a specific situation that is really happening to you, obviously that is warranted, and, you work your way up through the chain of command and you bring that to us. But I think when we hear language and rhetoric and just the anger that is associated with this, this situation that I experienced, it was just very alarming, and I just wanted to share that with the group and our community and let everyone know that, yeah, our district is amazing, but if you don't have an actual connection to our district and you're living out here on the periphery where you're getting information from other sources, it may not look like that. So when we hear that, that's probably where it's coming from. Dr. Kennedy?
I experienced some similar things with some misinformation being shared. The morning of the election, I got a phone call at 7:45 in the morning that someone was telling somebody that we have kitty litter in our bathrooms at the school for students to use. Ironically, I then sat next to my father at a softball game, and he said, "Oh, your Aunt Cindy and your Uncle Harry said that at Burke High School, they have kitty litter in the bathrooms." And that poor man had to sit next to me for the next 15 minutes explaining why, and then got 10 different real sources of how this rumor started. And then I went for lunch the last day of school and swimming up at the Berkshire, and I sat down at a table with Wilson families. And one of the moms said to me, "Now, this is going to sound stupid, and you know I'm an intelligent person, but I have heard this multiple times. Is there kitty litter in our high school bathrooms?" Now, these are rumors that are purposely started by groups to discredit public schools. And my first thought is, our kids don't breathe without their cameras. If there was kitty litter in our schools, we'd have pictures all over social media of kitty litter. But just to be sure, Dr. Trickett, do we have kitty litter for our students to use in our bathrooms at any of our schools, high school, Berkshire Heights, I don't know, in our classrooms?
We do not. No.
It's just not a thing. It's not a thing. But it's part of this national conversation, which is used, again, to discredit the work that we're doing in public schools. The other big one that I heard was, Dr. Trickett, are we currently encouraging boys to play on girls' sports teams?
No, not to my knowledge, we are not encouraging
Okay.
that.
All right. The other one that I had an adorable little elderly lady. She was so cute. We talked for a long time. And she said to me, "I don't want them to build that $100 million new school. They don't need it." We almost, pre-pandemic, built a school and an addition and a redo for less than that. So again, like President Cocker said, we need to do a better job at reaching these people who are getting somehow misinformation, large, vast amounts of real misinformation, that somehow they're not hearing what we're saying, but they're hearing what other people are lying to them about. The other thing I was going to ask Mr. Schlossman is, there's a lot of misinformation about taxes going on. Large numbers said and ironically the same number, we've already raised the taxes this giant amount, and we're going to raise the taxes in the next 5 years in this giant amount. Is there, when you bring the budget forth next time, could you perhaps do a slide speaking to that? And again, show that slide. One of the things that people didn't know that they were really receptive to was the fact that we're one of, 4 districts that have population growth. And people don't, when people throw out, well, why is Tulpehocken lowering it? Well, because they don't have nearly as many kids, and they have giant warehouses. So the warehouses really offset kids. And the last thing I heard, and then I'll get off my soapboxes, and I think, Mr. Negrini, you do a nice job talking about this. When someone whispers to the person next to them, "We're going to lower taxes," Can someone just unilaterally say, we're going to lower taxes? What would happen if this board said, we're going to lower taxes? What would happen to our programming in this district?
There's one way of balancing a budget. It's either increasing taxes or decreasing costs. So again, these are all moving parts that go into a budget preparation process. I think I've spoken to this during last year's budget process. I gave millage examples to eliminate things that are not required, if you will, as part of the Wilson experience, arts, music, extracurriculars, foreign languages, things of that sort. So again, you can trim those things down year in and year out, ultimately to avoid year after year propose tax increases. So that is the discussion that is ongoing year after year. You're already starting off each budgetary year in a deficit with expenses that increase, such as PSERS or other unfunded mandates. We've seen in years past the amount of funding that we get from the state and federal government when it comes to special education costs. It's been flat leveled for the last 20 years, as long as I've been on the board in 13 years, but those costs have increased. So it is a challenge. And so, again, it is partly philosophical of the board as well. We're a group of 9, and these are decisions that have to be made not only collectively, but then when voted upon individually.
So just to reiterate, cutting expenditures means cutting potential programs, and it would be a lot of those programs that we saw in that video at the beginning, because those aren't required programs.
That is an option, yes.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Kennedy, Mr. Negrini. And just to end on a positive note, because I don't want that to be the last thing we say, talk about during our meeting, is it's the first meeting in June. So I would like to wish a happy Pride Month to our LGBTQ students, families, and community members. And just reiterate that when we talk about supporting and welcoming every student, we mean it, and we're happy you're here and part of our family at Wilson. So, any other conversation from the board tonight? All right, looking for a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.